Good evening, everybody. This is Zuili Eclaire from Publish Industry India Private Limited. We publish industrial technology magazines like Efficient Manufacturing Magazine, which is EM, and Automation and Digitalization Magazine, which is AND. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to today's webinar, which is on manufacturing operations post-COVID-19 from survival to revival. And I would like to welcome all of you. Now, ever since the coronavirus has hit us, it has affected almost every business that we can think of, including the manufacturing industry. It has heavily disrupted demand behavior, supply behavior, and then it has affected the capabilities of companies to deliver goods. And then manufacturers are quite in a fix about the lockdown. But then there will be a time when the lockdown will have to be lifted, when businesses will have to go back to work, when manufacturing factories will have to start functioning normally again. So that is going to be the real test to start to revive and to start functioning sturdily again. And that is exactly what our webinar is going to address today. Our speakers and presenters are going to talk about surviving and reviving post COVID-19. Then there will be a panel discussion on this topic of manufacturing operations post COVID-19 from survival to revival. Then the industry veterans would be deliberating on the short-term and long-term implications and consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, the immediate actionable growth strategies, the approach towards deployment of advanced technologies in the current situation, and the mantra for survival and revival. So these are some of the topics that we'll be addressing. Before we begin today's webinar, ladies and gentlemen, I have a few instructions for our speakers and for our attendees, our audience. So please use headphones or headsets while you're plugged in so that you can be heard very clearly, loudly and audibly. Then also I request everybody, the speakers and the audience and everyone, to please check that your internet connection is stable. It's best if you're using wired LAN connection. So for a smoother connection, make sure that the tabs on your phone or your computer or your laptop are all closed so that the internet connection will be smoother. One important thing I would like to tell the speakers is that please check your web cameras and make sure that you're facing the light so that the light is on you and the attendees can see your face properly. And also keep your cameras switched off for now, and please turn them on only once your names have been announced. And last but not the least, a very important instruction for the speakers is that while you're giving your presentation or while you will be giving your guest address, 2 minutes before your presentation or your guest address ends, a buzzer will be buzzed. So when that buzzer buzzes, it will mean that you have 2 minutes left to finish your presentation and you are required to wrap up your presentation or your address in those last 2 minutes so that we can move on to the next part of the webinar. So let me take you through today's agenda. In today's webinar, we'll be engaged by the guest address by Mr. Chandrakant Saunke, who is the President, SME Chamber of India. Then this will be followed by the next guest address by Mr. Vijay Kalra, who is the head, Mahindra Institute of Quality and former Chief of Manufacturing, Mahindra and Mahindra. After this, we'll then have a technology presentation by Mr. Sridhar Dharmarajan, Executive Vice President and Managing Director, Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence India. And then we'll have the panel discussion on manufacturing operations post-COVID-19 from survival to revival. So let us begin. I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Chandrakant Saunke, who will be giving us his guest address. Mr. Saunke is the founder and president of SME Chamber of India and Maharashtra Industrial and Economic Development Association, as well as macro group of companies which is involved in manufacturing, packaging, machines and equipments. Ladies and gentlemen, once Mr. Saunke is finished with his address, we are open to Q&As. There's a small box on the right side of your screen. It's a control box. In that, you can see the question tab. So if you have any questions after Mr. Saunke's address, you can put in your questions over there and we'll get them and we can have them answered. So now I'd like Mr. Saunke to please take over. So over to you, Mr. Saunke.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jitkar, to inviting me to share my thoughts at this important webinar because currently the most affected industry is in the manufacturing industry. And depend on manufacturing industry, there are plenty of industries affected because of the COVID-19. Friends, all of you are aware that it's a difficult situation. Invisible enemy has closed down the economical development, industrial development, not in only in Maharashtra or India, it's worldwide. Manufacturing industry is one of the economic engine of the every country, particularly providing the large employment, particularly providing the business opportunity, advanced technology, lots of things happening in the manufacturing industry, innovation, invention. Today morning, we had an interaction with the Honorable Minister of Industry, Mr. Subhash Desai, and on behalf of manufacturing industry, rather, uh, recently we had a webinar with Sri Gadkari Sahab also, and today Mr. Desai, and I insisted both of them to provide proper handholding, proper support, and proper, practical support to the manufacturing industry, even though the government of India has announced some package. Because the local government, state government is one of the main machinery to provide all the support services to manufacturing industry to survive and to revive also. Without survival, we cannot revive. And most importantly thing is that, I found that even though 30,000 industry in Maharashtra started their manufacturing unit, but only 33% workers. It is impossible. If any company is having 100 workers, 33 workers will not be able to give the justice to the output of their whatever production or whatever it may be, that company's growth. Currently, we found that government is keen to support industry, but practical support I have seen that lacking, because whenever we interact with the manufacturing industry purpose, with the state government, with the central government, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of MSME, even Maharashtra government also, once they allow to start the manufacturing, they don't look at what services, what are the manufacturing issues are going on. Well, if we are having a factory in MIDC, whether we are running factory very well or not, whether we are getting skilled manpower, whether we have a logistic support or any other local labor unions harassment, or so these are the things government should take, because this is a time, this coronavirus has given us very educative educational system, because when we are at home we have to think of future. Most of the MSME sector MSMEs are not planning for future. They are not putting efforts for the what something will happen if I what I'll do for the next tomorrow, or what I'll do for the next week or the next 10 days or after 1 month, because this this is a like we can say natural calamity, because this is an invisible enemy is killing a lot of people. You look at the USA, Germany, Spain, Italy, France. Now India is also up. The figures numbers are increasing in Pune, Mumbai, all India level. So these are the issues now coming up. The point is the manufacturing industry is going to affect because of the migrant labor. Many industry, particularly from Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, Aurangabad, or any other regions in Maharashtra or other parts of India, all migrant laborers or all casual laborers are coming from out of Maharashtra, out of the state. All migrant labor are left. So this will be a very effective and effective thing will be for the manufacturing industry. Even I asked the Honorable Minister of Industry, what will be your stand for particularly providing the skill manpower? So he has suggested that they are going to set up one platform where the skill manpower from local will join that and they will get. But it is not, there is no time. After lockdown, and I think it will take some time. It will take more time to to come on the track. At least maintenance of the machines, equipments. Some processing unit must be having a problem, because on 24th night March night, immediately Prime Minister announced that lockdown will be starting from tomorrow. So we received a lot of complaints from the manufacturing. Those are in processing industry. They're all processed material is lying in a factory. Perishable goods are lying in the factory. Pharmaceutical, some companies also closed down. After that, also a lot of companies try to start manufacturing unit, but somehow the industry workers are not ready to go to the factory because they feel that while traveling or while going to the factory, if I met any COVID patient, infected patient, then I will get it. Another very interesting point that entrepreneurs also not ready to start manufacturing industry because suppose any infected person started working because he's not aware about his issues and problems of the health, and in case there any infected person working and then there is a other people will be infected, then my factory will be closed down. So ultimately, many entrepreneurs, those even those they have a permission from the government, they have not started manufacturing industry or manufacturing operations. So this is the point. So today I have asked the Honorable Minister few things, particularly for the benefit of industry. Let me read that. I have suggested Honorable Minister to provide on behalf of the state government salary to the workers, employees of the all manufacturing industry to at least 2 months, like April and May. Second thing, interest subvention scheme is not given any manufacturing industry particularly. That also given that for at least 5% interest subvention rate to be given manufacturing industry. Second thing, most of the manufacturing industry facing a finance from the bank because last 2019-2020 financial year, 45 days are gone without any manufacturing. Manufacturing industry. After that, April and May, this is the 15th of May till that, another 45 days. So ultimately, we are not going to achieve the target growth. So if you're not achieving target growth, bank will not give you working capital, or rather they will reduce your working capital. Because they are providing funding on what basis? Our debt, our stock, and what is the business we are going to do it. So ultimately, SME sector is going to face a big problem. Another request I have given today, that whatever the charges we had to pay, any particularly for electricity or whatever the direct charges we had to pay every month, that should be cut down. Electricity charges, whatever the electricity charges utilized by the manufacturing, that can be given. Another very interesting, what are the licenses fee for this year, complete this year, should be waived out, because we are not going to pay that amount, we are not going to make an income. And nowadays, a lot of manufacturing industry doesn't have that much profitability. We are paying 18% GST, and we are not getting that much profitability from the particularly. Another request I have made that subsidy. Can you provide some industrial related segment, that some subsidy where manufacturing industry can obtain and they can survive? Another very interesting thing I have suggested, that now Maharashtra government and other states also started identifying the companies from the Japan. Those are already manufacturing operations in China and other countries. So I have suggested the Honorable Minister to encourage them to come to Maharashtra. Come to Maharashtra to provide a business to our industry also. It is not only that manufacture here, they will import raw material, they will import semi-finished, they just assemble it, they will sell it in the world market. They should be insisted to buy at least 75% product from local market, services from the local entrepreneurs, which will be beneficial for our entrepreneurs to set up and enhance their businesses. Another very interesting thing I said, that labor laws, completely withdraw labor laws for at least 2 years. Another very interesting point I want to raise here, those manufacturing industry facing problem from the Mathari Act. So many entrepreneurs complained that Chakan region, Pune region, Chinchwad region, Panvel, then Mumbai, the Mathari Act is not eligible for manufacturing industry. Those are facing problem. Kindly write to us. We will support you. We will take this matter to the government of Maharashtra. Another very interesting thing I suggested, that the manufacturing industry, some manufacturing industries are sick industries. Some reason, by bank reason or not getting a trade receivable, or not they are having any particular support from you. So this is a time now to revive them. I want to give you all this information. That why? Because we want to save the industry. We want to support the industry to survive. And another very interesting point I want to tell of you, that I had a meeting with the Prime Minister on 27 December. He spent 30 minutes first, and when he understand the I'm giving a lot of information about the SME sector, then he has spent 3 hours. So in 3 hours, he understand the situation of the industry, situation of the manufacturing industry, and situation of the MSME sector particularly. First, we are not getting a proper finance from bank on time, or not adequate finance. Collateral-free loans are not getting properly to manufacturing industry. Industrialization one should do in a rural area, labor is not available, transportation system is not available, that can be done. Rate of the price of industrial land from out of the city or metro city should be at least 50% less than the whatever the local rate is there. Another point, labor laws. At least up to 300 to 500 workers, no labor laws to be applicable to MSME sector. This is demand I have given to them. Most importantly, I have requested for a 5 crore rupees collateral free loan to the SME sector to be given by the banking sector, where SME or entrepreneurs can start the manufacturing. Nowadays, you look at that, and no one is interested to start manufacturing industry. Everybody is closing manufacturing industry and going for a service industry. So coming to the point, today's subject, how we will survive in this COVID-19, how we will revive our factories to start operations from the after this completion of the lockdown. I want to suggest the entrepreneurs that do not lose your confidence. This is a we can say big impact to your industry. Not only your industry, this is worldwide. I know the supply chain management will be disturbed. Raw material will not be available easily after the lockdown open, because transportation will not be properly available, or transportation cannot provide you the services, because most of the migrant labor, the drivers or transport people are left Maharashtra. So we have to tackle very well. We have to manage our proper. You have 10 days, 15 days time in hand. Make a planning, make a systematic plan, business plan, where you will start your factory, how you will start your export business. Nowadays, I found that a lot of entrepreneurs have made a complaint that whatever the orders they have, orders also started cancel. Most of the export orders also cancelled, because the worldwide factories are closed, worldwide companies are not buying anything, are not running the factories, industrial issues are going. Another very important thing, most of the factories after the lockdown of 90 days or 60 days or 75 days, there will be requirement of maintenance. So maintenance purpose, all the industrial products will not be available. So we have requested the Honorable Minister, in the region of industrial area, the shops, the engineering services should be started. Another point I want to discuss on this matter, particularly, we have to focus now less people management system, less people for manufacturing industry. So adopt the advanced technology, adopt the patented technology, start utilization of the new ideas, new concept for manufacturing industry. Now we are going to enter in the industry 4.40. So this is a time now to transform our business, transform our ideas, and transform our situation, and transform our systematic business plan, where we can enhance our business. And Honorable Prime Minister said he wants to make the India as a $5 trillion US dollars economy. So industry, manufacturing industry and SME sector is going to play a very important role. And on behalf of SME Chamber of India, I assure all of you that wherever you feel that you have a problem, or you face a hurdle, or you have any issue, or would you like to have any support or advisory services, my chamber will be happy to support you. president@smechamber.com is my email ID, where you can send suggestion. I would like to suggest Jitkar sir, why don't you invite some suggestions from the industry? These suggestions we can take up to the minister, secretary, even now the secretary of MSME, Mr. A.K. Sharma, He is very prominent person, and he is playing very important role. Because of his efforts, you have seen the lot of incentives and the schemes and package given by the honorable finance minister under the guidance of prime minister. With this word, I'm thankful to all of you, and we look forward to continue this conversation. But I suggest all the manufacturing industry, do not stop. Enhance your activity, develop your activity. Maharashtra government will be with you, and whenever you have a problem, you can contact Mr. Subhash Desai, Industry Minister. He is very nice person. He will resolve your issues and problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that engaging address, Mr. Sarunke. It's indeed true that in order to survive, we have to first, we cannot revive without surviving. And COVID-19 has given us a very educational system because at home we have to think of the future. So that was indeed at a very engaging address. Now, for the audience, if you have any questions, you can send us your questions and we will have them answered to you via email. So we'll be moving on now to the next part of the webinar. We'll be having a quick poll now. A poll will appear on your screen and you will be given options to answer the questions to the poll, and you will have 60 seconds to answer. The poll will last only for 30 seconds, not 60, I'm sorry, 30 seconds. You will have 30 seconds to answer the poll. And so can we have the poll question on our screen, please? The question says, do you think the rupees 20 lakh crore stimulus package announced recently by our PM will give an immediate boost to the Indian economy? Your options are yes and no. Your 30 seconds start now. Please begin. We have 5 seconds left. Okay, we'll be closing the poll now. The poll has been closed now. Can we please have the results for the poll? We have the results. 61% of people say yes, while 31% of people say no. That the rupees 20 lakh crore stimulus package announced recently by PM whether it will give an immediate boost to the Indian economy. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in this poll. Now we'll be moving on to the next part of our webinar. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Vijay Kalra, who will be giving his guest address, and he is currently serving as the head Mahindra Institute of Quality and Chairman, Central Safety Council at the Mahindra Group. The role involves capability building, promoting safety culture, and implementing Group Business Excellence Model, TMW, the Mahindra way. Prior to the current group leadership role, Mr. Kalra was the Executive Director and CEO of Mahindra Vehicle Manufacturers Limited and Chief of Manufacturing Operations, Automotive Sector, Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. He was leading 8 plants and was responsible for manufacturing, plant quality, central manufacturing engineering, supply chain management, projects and industry relations, and more. So once Mr. Kalra is finished with his address, we are open to Q&As. Now I'd like to request Mr. Kalra to please begin with his address. Over to you, Mr. Kalra.
Or something which you know. Can you hear me or no? Hello?
I can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the few slides which I am going to show are nothing but these are last 45 days or 50 days. Practically all my manufacturing colleagues, when we meet and think over how to really go back to normal days, and so these are some collective thoughts about it. Normally, when you have a session like people want to talk about COVID, but for few thoughts on COVID, rest all will be how to restart the factory. Okay. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So normally, being a manufacturing guy, we all will agree that we are always looking for a very stable environment. We are good when everything goes as per plan, everything is standardized. I mean, people come in the right numbers, the machines are up and running every day, parts come in the right thing, suppliers are doing everything right, schedules are more or less stable, and we know what to do. And if we do this, then we find that numbers, timing, quality, cost, everything goes well. But if we look at current environment, everything is unstable. So it's just a situation which is something in manufacturing we never like it. But then it is a reality. Okay. Can we go to the next slide? And the second thing is that let me just talk 1 minute on COVID. We have a lot of inputs coming from WHO, MHA, state administration. And to be very frank, all OEMs and all big manufacturing companies in and around the country or outside have issued some guidelines how to work. So, which are enough to really keep eye. Only thing is that 2 or 3 things which we thought which is bothering us is that number one is like when we talk about 6 feet difference or something, when we are on assembly lines or machine shops, sometimes it's not possible to have that, and we have taken a call that we will use what we call face shield there. So I just wanted to share. Second is that sanitizer is something great to have, but be cautious about it. It's something which can which can catch fire very fast. It's practically 60% alcohol, and it has to be used very, very carefully because we will have very locations where you will be using it. Yeah, just move. Yeah. The most important thing, when I wrote few days back, I thought it will be restarting after 45 days, but actually it has become 55 days, and some more, for some it is still waiting. The most important thing is that when we restart, okay, any facility, the most important critical team is the team, and team mix will be different. Okay, the team will be different. They will not be trained on those things as much as we used to have. There will be change of locations, stations, and everything. And normally, whenever we go for such shutdowns, okay, it is a very planned shutdown, so we know what to do before we close. But this shutdown was abrupt. Suddenly, in a matter of a day or two, we had to just stop everything. Okay, so it was not planned. Whatever we are going to talk, just keep these 2 things in mind for restarting. Yeah, can we move? Yeah. So most important is, first is when we restart your utilities and equipment. Okay, very clearly the safety precautions and the experience what the country had in Visakhapatnam could be related with what really went wrong because of this shutdown. I mean, just think of very, very simple things. No, when we have a situation like most of our press shops and such areas where we use laser rays for safety, and those areas because of dust or something could have been blocked. And when we start and the whole thing doesn't work, and the operator who is new to that area just plugs it off, I mean, take out that caution. Okay, so there may be many such things which can go wrong. I mean, we have experience in last 10-15 years. I have seen 4 fires because the diesel on test bed mind it is diesel, not gasoline, leaks a bit and gets accumulated at one area, and you have dry leaf there, you have cotton cloth there and things there, and then by mistake something catches fire and it becomes big. So when we go back, the areas around our LPG areas, thinner areas, explosive, what if we are keeping such material which is risky, all this we have to be very, very carefully look at it, correct it before we plug on. Even like panel boards, no, there must be curve of getting collected, and when you restart, okay, there can be a small flash and can cause concern. Similarly, when it comes to equipment, many of the equipments, the nozzles would have got choked. If we had a situation like we are using some alkaline solution for washing, if that remains in that tank for such a long time, it can cause concern. There can be many, many things. And just think of something like at our homes or factories, when we have to pump water from ground, and if that pump is not used for such a long time, the priming becomes problem because the water table has gone low. Same way on many machines, the lubricant would have fallen so much that when we restart, okay, it may cause concern, and sometimes we will not even come to know. Typically, if we remember our those days when we used to buy Bajaj and Fiats and all those things, and we were told that first 500 kilometers go a bit slow. The same thing can be there on equipment, and we may find that the lubricant has gone so low or something because it has, even in spite of right viscosity, it has settled down, and when we restart, it has some amount of seizing issues or something. The equipment starts, but the life of equipment gets affected. So all these things one has to be very, very careful, because once we start and if something goes wrong, the cost of that will be very, very high. And the best person who knows is the person who was running those machines, those supervisors who were close to those machines, those supervisors who were close to those equipment. Many of them will be there and many of them may not be there. The best part will be that getting those operators who are there or and let them think over and write what all they can think can go wrong and have a check sheet or tick mark and then move. Okay, I feel this will be the most critical thing before we restart. Yeah, just move. Then when we closed, this is a fact, we closed and we have supply chains running very, very long. Okay, within country, coming from outside and all. And as I said, that because it was abrupt, there must be material lying at port, there can be material lying at supplier end, there can be material lying at our docks, and there's such material, and even trucks on the way. We ship material from Chakan to Hardwar, okay, and it takes 5 or 6 days, and there may be trucks on the way, and those truck drivers would not have waited for such a long, unloaded somewhere, and then when the whole thing starts, they may reload, okay, or something was lying at our dockyard. All this material may not be accounted properly now, okay, and it will be critical that before we take a day or something and just make sure that everything is accounted in our books, and anything which has link with shelf life, okay, those sealers, paint, or such material or rubber material, if we feel it has any link with shelf life, either we relook at it before entering or we park it aside and start with something new, and then take our own time to find whether it is usable or something. Otherwise, a minor mistake. I remember in my working life, just a couple of years back, one of our great launch, we had a problem that O-ring, a very small O-ring which doesn't cost much, something went wrong there. Okay, it was an issue that rubber which was used was not right, or it was an issue of shelf life. It was used, it was kept very long, and when we used it, it caused concern. So a minor thing can cause a big concern, and we should be very, very worried about that. Can we move? Yeah, and then as I heard the first speaker also, suddenly volumes would have changed, the needs would have changed, even availability of people will become an issue. And even when government is allowing, they are allowing a percentage of people to come. And even if they allow all to come, we know that many will not be able to come because of the problems they are facing in logistics, and many would have gone back. to their homes. Now the problem is based on need and possibility, we will have to change our cycle times. And once you change cycle time with the new manpower, and if the guy was doing a job of 1 minute or 2 minutes earlier per cycle, where 5 or 6 jobs were there, and now the cycle time moved to 6, 7, 8 minutes, and the job became 14, 15, you can understand what will happen. And then all SOPs will have changed. Okay, so we'll have to rewrite all SOPs. Layout may require change because of social distancing norms or the cycle time requirement, and this will need a lot of training and dexterity. Okay, it is not about having right persons at right location who understand, but it makes a huge difference if rhythm is lost. And we know that earlier it took a lot of time to get that rhythm. The job, the person will before you and person after you, there is a linkage. The machine before you and machine after you, there is a linkage. It is like relay race. I mean, relay race, if you have 4 persons, A, B, C, D, and if you just change it B, D, C, A, even if all same guys are there, when they have to move their baton from one hand to another, you will find the gap. So rhythm has gone, and there will be need that we go slow, understand, and do the right things. Otherwise, we may suffer huge on quality or some other reason, and then can become a problem, including safety. Yeah, can we move? Then critical processes. Okay, just think of a foundry which has not worked for 50 days. Okay, what would happen to those cupolas? What would have happened to the sand? I mean, typical example which I have written is you had a sand with some water content or this thing, moisture content, and suddenly it is lying from last 50 days. You have for making patterns a bonding compound which is not used for 50 days. Okay, the chemistry would have played some role, and wherever chemistry comes into the picture, be very careful because something would have gone wrong. Take case of a paint shop. I mean, the paint which was there in our kitchens. Okay, especially if it was mixed with additives, what would have happened? And when we go to our ovens after painting, the baking ovens, the dust collected on fan, the dust collected within oven, and as soon as you start, it will come on the product, and just think of what will happen to those products. Similarly, this all parameters, no, in heat treatment, and then when we were supposed to align with the ambient temperature and the humidity, the paint mix, and all those things, the viscosity of paint. Normally, we were moving only minor every day or every week because the change was minimal. Now this will happen after 45 days. So we may find problems, and it will be good that for critical processes, if we need to get some experts who are around before we go for it, it will be good. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, the correction is going to be very, very difficult and costly. Can we move? Yeah, then I remember reading a novel, Wheels, written by Arthur Haley, and this was about General Motors, a foreman there who keeps on running whole day, yelling at people, shouting at people for doing the right job and all those things. And just think of this situation. Okay, we have half-built jobs. Okay, and the same book talks about that customers were worried about buying a product which was made on either Friday or Monday because they believe that there will be change in manpower, and at some locations or stations there will be less skilled guy. Now in this situation, okay, and even we get worried when we have breaks. When people come back after lunch, we are not very sure whether they will ensure that they start from the light this thing. We tell them that please finish your cycle job before going for this. When we move to shift, we are worried. And this is a situation that 45 days, the products were waiting in between. Okay, and there can be deterioration, there can be rusting, there can be contamination. As I said, there can be issues of shelf life. Even the finished products which were lying in yards, ready to move, will need a recheck. Okay, give you an example of if you park a car for 55 days at one location, the bottom area where the tire is in touch with the floor, okay, and the rubber starts getting brittle. Okay, So all these things, because it has something abnormal has happened, will need a recheck, recontrol before we start shipping these products. Otherwise, we may get into problem. Can we move to the next? Then, as I said, that the production plan would have changed. One of the reason of change in production plan is that choices have changed. The sequencing of what is required today has changed. And when the country is opening, the customer, the selling points are opening in only green areas. And I mean, if I'm in car industry, okay, the cars required for metro and for other areas in the country are different. And now metros, most of the areas are closed, while other areas have become green. So this will affect the JIT items. I mean, those jobs, those items which were directly given on the assembly lines directly, okay, just in time. Now, because of change in cycle times, the MOQs will have changed, okay. Your convo numbers would have changed, and it will affect. Similarly, logistics. Okay, we don't know which area is closed and which area is open. And logistics, which was taking X number of hours, can take this thing. And the most critical thing is just in industry like auto or tractors or any big capital good industry where many suppliers are involved and many parts are involved. 99% 9 is not enough. Okay, it's binary. Either you have everything or you don't have. A small bolt, they're not there. Of a big out of item 4,000 items, it can make everything zero. I mean, nothing can move without that. Similarly, if one thing is small going wrong can cause huge concern. Okay. Yeah, can we move? Similar will be if you have suppliers behind you. Okay, how are their situation, and they will have even more problem because possibility of their people going back to their homes is bigger. Their possibility of coming to factory will be difficult. And one more thing we have to be cautious about. I mean, people have lived without job or without a routine for 45 to 50 days, even if they were fed. Okay, this will have changed a lot of things, and emotionally they will be not in good shape. So how do we make sure that when they are back, they come with full energy and do this thing? Yeah, can we move? Hello, can we move? Yeah. So somebody told me when I was talking restart, he said, no, it's not restart. Actually, it is reset. As I was talking, that manufacturing operation is like a relay race. Okay. And the sequence in relay race has changed. The players in relay race has changed. And the need for button to move at some space has changed. So a lot of things have changed. Okay. And rhythm is gone to the thing. So what we have decided is that we will assume in a typical development cycle of a new product, we have a phase what we call pre-production stage, where we, after designing, the parts are developed and processes are created and they are ready and facilities are ready, and then we start very, very slow. We assume that the first day will be only very, very 1/10 of normal cycle process, and then next day, and then we will take that once product is made, we will have additional checks during the process, after the process, much more. We will look at the real use of that product, and if we find any gaps, correct it and then do the next thing. Okay, whether it is at your end or a supplier, and a lot of focus on PFMEA. Assume that things can go wrong and this thing, and we believe that this is the time to have a formal structure of program management. That means the manufacturing, quality, supply chain, engineering guy, plant engineering guy, all together working in place of going in sequence, that if anybody gets a problem, then talking to other person. If they work together, then things will be better. Yeah, just move. And yeah, so here I am talking about a bit of positivity. The reality is that this problem has come and this is going to be with us for some more time. Our need to have a very, very standardized environment will not be there. We will not have an environment where we will have clear orders. Everything goes right, going right on logistics. No surprises that something suddenly comes to a halt, and ambiguity is going to be reality. Okay, So we have to believe in that this is a real situation. We can't avoid it. Okay. What we can be sure about it, as I talked earlier also, this software has taught us that if you start your computer and suddenly you close it, okay, or the power goes off, or you just stop a program in between, the sign comes that will you like to start in safe mode. The idea of safe mode is that system will be rechecked, okay, very carefully. It will take some time, but once you come back, all other things were checked and then you started. I think need is that we should believe that we have to start. There is no way, and there will be no day when everything will be right. I mean, if we sit together and when we are within my group, when we talk and we say that if we have so many suppliers, so many processes, so many people, and then we find many reds in this thing, and if we wait for that all reds to become yellow or green, we believe that day will not come. We'll have to start with, once we are in reasonable situation, and start with, and then slowly to start turning those yellows into green and those reds into first orange and yellow, so that slowly things start, and the belief in the system will come once we start. Otherwise it will come. As I said, that we have to go step by step. Okay, we should keep on learning and improvise quickly. And normally we have talked about quality and safety whenever we talk about error proofing, but this will be a time health will become as much a critical error proof required, because some of my colleagues, when we were talking a couple of days back, were talking about that once we start, there will be people from government who will come and inspect. The idea is that, okay, that's fine, but more important is how our people feel, because on our shop floors, if one of the person is found with a problem of a COVID problem or something, just assume what will happen to morale of that area. It is not that somebody will come and close our factory, so we should be bothered about. We should be bothered about our people, and that is the reason that when it comes to all COVID precautions, what we know and what are going to come will be very critical, even when they are going to cost us time, money, everything. So be sure that we don't allow this to go wrong. Yeah, can we move? Now, this is what I feel is very sincere, that this is a time that the shop employees, whether officers, whether shop floor guys, we need to communicate them. Communicate. I mean, we have to really communicate. While we sanitize our shop floors or offices, I think it's more about sensitizing people. Okay, it is important to sensitize them that why it is important to restart, and but take all precautions so that we don't get into problem. It is very critical, and I believe that this is the area where Mahindra has generally done well. And I'm seeing from last 7, 8, 10 years, that when it comes to IR situations, when it comes to employee relations, we are able to manage well. And one of the key point is that we believe in adult to adult communication. We don't get into parent to child communication where we are trying to hide things. We want to tell them the good things. If company was dull, we believe that we should tell them very, very openly. And if company doesn't do well, we talk the same thing. So once we are able to manage that, bring that credibility in our communication, I think people work together to make something a successful thing. And this is something which will be more critical, because there will be many guys who will have their families will be telling not to go and all those things, but they will stand up for duty, and then they will say that while I'll make sure that I do all the right things, but I want to be there. Similarly, I think this is the time when we have valued skill, but as a country, I think there is a need to value skill more than what we were doing earlier. So please make sure that we value and celebrate skill more, because this is the time when it will come to restart, when will it come to bring it back to normal. Skill is going to differentiate. Okay. This is the thing which will make it or break it. Okay. Similarly, that let's see that they add purpose to the job. I heard that yesterday, I was hearing on the TV that PPE was an issue in the country, and in last 45 to 50 days, we have now 8,000 crore company when it comes to total turnover when it comes to PPE, and we are in a position even to export. This has now happened not because of only the intention of government or intention of industry. I think people who felt that their job has a purpose, then they felt that it is really required, they went out of the way and make it happen. And then engaging full person. I mean, it's not engaging, I mean, what Taylor theory taught us, that hands and limbs of people, okay, and those shovel examples, it is basically to get their brains and their heart into the game. The ideas for correction, the ideas for improvising, the ideas to really work in a different environment, if they start really engaging in this, I think it's going to be much easier than if somebody else has to take call sitting at a distance. Can we move? Yeah, most critical, okay, the rules of game has not changed, okay. This is a time when we have got into problem, we will have to do it differently till we come back. We may have to do some compromises on productivity and maybe productivity. We can't do compromises on quality, we can't do compromises on safety. We may have to do some compromises on productivity, where cycle times may go up, the cost of managing may go up, but we should make sure that we don't allow social distancing to violate lean. Okay, the concept of lean remains. Okay, the use of TQM, TPM, and other things has become even more. Okay, those are basics. Flexibility will need. I mean, we need to be more flexible. Okay, adaptability will be the key. And whenever we are designing our processes and the current processes, how do we make sure that if requirements are less and we have more setups, how do we manage it? Okay, how do we make sure that if one model is required, the other is not required, and if one process is required, other is not required, how we remain viable and how we are able to keep long uptimes. Okay, less utilization of equipments will cause concern, but aggregating and using them, even if we have two of them, if we have to use one and one park the other one, it will be more sensible than to do something here and something there. Okay, we may have a reason that this is meant for this product and this cycle, this type of process, and this is this thing, and wherever possible we should commonize and use more automation. I think we always believed in it, but this is a time, I'm not saying automation for reduction of people, but I'm saying that if it is coming in the way of quality, I mean, like typical in our industry, if we have our paint top coat applied only by people, okay, and we are so much dependent on people and their skill, I think it will not work. So those are the areas one has to go for robotization. Same can happen that you have 5 machines prior to one job and 5 after that job, and that machine is becoming a problem. Okay, if you can do some amount of automation, maybe loading, unloading or something, okay, or you can reduce feed time, or you can do anything, okay, using current technology, even if costs some money, and it gives you the cycle time of entire cycle becomes better. Okay, even if you are running for 8 hours and that's enough, okay, but all other processes can do a job in 4 hours, and because of this machine it is going for 8 hours, it will be meaningful to do those things. No, so quality, productivity, ergo safety, wherever coming in the way and automation can help, go ahead and just do it. The general belief is that cost reduction and sustainability are two different subjects. I'll show in next slide how they are common, how they make sense together. Somebody taught me that idea of reuse center, that anything which is waste, can it be parked in one area, so that discussions about zero landfill and all those things can become better, and we don't have to waste money in scrapping those items. So can we use it? And please believe that all the thoughts of industry 4.0 and IoT, okay, the relevant thoughts when we are trying to do something, and if it ever enables our process to become more lean and more competitive, I think we should be picking and doing it at a fast rate. There are areas where you will get fast returns and very meaningful results, and if we are not competitive, one more thing which is going to happen is that we already had in most of the industries we had more capacity than required, and with this, okay, situation, when requirements will come down, the capacities will go even more. Okay, so we will have to see reasons how we are more competitive. I mean, we may be running our operations lesser time, but overall cost and everything comes better. Can we move? This is a typical example which, when I was talking sustainability versus this. See the numbers below. Okay, power, water, fuel, wood, paper. This is a real paper which was presented to our MD few days back in when we were having board meeting. And anything you save on power, anything you save on water, everything you save on fuel, everything you save on wood and paper, everything gets aligned with your bottom line. Okay, and for doing this, there are very simple things to do. Not all those things are very costly to do it, and many of those things have return within a year or 18 months or something, more than what we do otherwise in the business. I mean, return is higher than the main jobs we do sometimes. Can we move? So the last slide and the most critical, I think sounds very high level when we say this crisis should not go west, but the reality is any crisis should not go waste. We should be looking at opportunities of this thing. This is a time when we are forced to look differently. This is a time when we will be able to adopt things differently. I mean, across value chain, everybody, whether it is a supplier, whether employees, whether our customers, all will be ready, especially dealers, all will be ready to change based on need, because this is the time to save ourselves. Second is the most critical thing is that never seen a situation where something has hit, but and it has hit all. Okay, even if it has hit a complete industry, okay, but it is one industry, not all industries. And even if it is a hit, it hits few countries, not all. And this is a thing where actually pitch has changed. So in cricket things, no, we are on a knee pitch. But the best part is level playing. And this is the biggest opportunity for a country like ours. And I think we all can play a bigger role, because otherwise we would have been always a developing country and we would have always be looking at West to tell us what to do. But this is a chance when we can, I mean, this is something like Y2K movement for us, no? A Y2K movement for India became a big thing because we went back and said that this is what can be done to avoid this. And same thing, opportunity is there. It's a time to reinvent, work hard, and come back even stronger. Okay, so that's what I feel very sincerely. Only thing which I will say is that when we are looking for solution, we should not just copy solutions which we hear from other developed countries or something. Their situation and our situation is different. And if we just copy this, okay, and if we just do what they are doing, then there is no need for them to have machines here and job to be done there in the same way with lesser manpower, same high-end machine. If that's a reality, then there is no need. They can do it in their own countries also and keep on supplying this thing. Our strength still is people. Okay, how do we use keep that in mind, that we have to, I mean, if we are not using our strength, okay, we will not be competitive. We will move from this stage to another stage, but then again when it comes to overall scale, we will be again behind the whole world. No, so be careful that whatever is our strength of country, we should not forget any time, and our strength is number of people, and how do we engage them to make it things bigger. Thank you, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kalra, for that very engaging address. I couldn't agree more with you when you said that this crisis should not go waste, and this is the time to reinvent and come back stronger. And also when you said that layout may require changes because of social distancing, and it makes a huge a huge difference if the rhythm is lost, is what you said. So I couldn't agree more with you on these things. Thank you so much. That was very insightful. We are now open to Q&As for Mr. Kalra. So do we have any questions for Mr. Kalra? You have a question tab in your control box on the right hand side. So you can put in your questions there, and we'll have them answered.
Yeah, Mr. Kalra, there is one question from Shubham Auti. How do you think inventory management of manufacturing companies will look like post COVID-19?
Yeah, so obviously with the cash becoming a most critical thing during these times, our eyes on inventory So we have to be very careful that when we plan something, we align really with customer. The basic concept of Toyota that we produced against consumption and use Kanban as a principle will add a lot of value. Here, technology can really play a very good role. If we can have visibility across inventory, I mean, across value chain, from raw material of supplier till what we have at dealers or our selling areas. And if we, and during process, if we have everything very visible and if we are very careful, then I think we can manage with much lesser working capital than what is this thing. Yeah. So my belief is that this will be very, very critical for revival of a company. And yeah, so that's what it is. And technology can really be used. Okay, visibility of our total material in form of raw material, semi-processed, processed, and ready for dispatch, and even at dealer's end. If everything is very visible and we are working for a basic principle of that we are producing for against consumption, okay, and planning accordingly. And then balanced production will also make huge difference, that we don't pile up things and go very, very sequential. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is from Pawan Kulkarni. How do you think about the manufacturers, their investment on automation technology when they are running short of orders themselves? They should invest in automation technology or advanced technologies now, since
Yeah,
they're also running short of orders.
Yeah, so I'm not a person who will say that we should create a company which is which is driven by technology, and we say that we are the most advanced factory we have. What I believe is that technology is an enabler, okay, and the environment will become even more competitive. As I said, that the overall capacities around the world and in country on many products will be higher than what is required. So I believe that technology should be used to become competitive. Only those areas which I said, like if there is a operation which has linkage with safety, and if I am doing it in that environment and technology helps me in making it much more safer, I think we should go into that. If we have an operation where ergonomics becomes an issue and the guy works for 20 years and suffers for a long time, we should be looking at it. We should be looking at those items. I give example that if we on a total machine line or assembly lines or our process, I mean, there are some bottlenecks and those items become neck processes and they are holding up the entire thing. Okay, we should immediately go for it because they will give huge returns. Okay, if we have a chance to save on power, okay, and if we have to invest on something, our lighting system, which is much cheaper today, I mean, running cost is much bigger. They cost some money, but the return will come from 9 months to 10 months. I'm just saying that many things which we were able to manage inefficient earlier. And then remember that we will have a problem of lesser people. Their availability will become less. And the skill will become an issue, that we may lose some of skilled guys who we are used to. Okay, so their technology can be used to make sure that we become more viable without them, or more we are able to do the job without that. So technology, not for the sake of using technology, but if it makes sense in terms of your running costs, productivity, power, making things better. I mean, technology for smart metering of power, water, everything can be something which may cost you some money, but it will give you much more return. So I'm not saying technology for the sake of doing technology, okay, but the technology for getting visibility on your parts, all these things will give you huge return. And if we don't do this thing, the possibility of becoming even more uncompetitive will be very huge.
Okay. There is one last question.
Use technology to become strong.
Okay. There is one more question from Amit Singh. The three major changes which you feel will MSME industry have to make immediately to maintain as a supply chain of large companies?
Yeah, so first will be, I think, the communication with the company for which you are tier one or tier two. I think that communication should become better. Communication with your suppliers and your next process. I mean, or next company. The quality of communication should go up. Okay. Reskilling and making sure that when people have changed, how do we take care of them? And third will be that how we become more and more flexible and adaptable. Okay, I mean, there will be many rules of game would have changed, and believing that they will come back and waiting for that can cause huge money and time. Okay, so the best will be to understand that this is a reality and really adopt that, and especially in areas of people and skilling, the skilling and then inventory or this thing. Okay, one has to be careful.
Okay, due to shortage of time, we won't be able to take more questions. If the audience has more questions, they can write to us, or they can put the questions in the Q&A box or in the chat. We'll get them answered from Mr. Kalra. Over to you, Julie.
Thank you, Mr. Jitkar. Thank you, Mr. Kalra. We'll be now moving on with the next part of our webinar. So now we'll be having Mr. Sridhar Dharmarajan, the Executive Vice President and Managing Director, Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence India. He'll be giving a presentation on reinvention thanks to disruption, new manufacturing practices in the post-COVID era. Once Mr. Dharmarajan is done with his presentation, we are open to Q&As. So I would like Mr. Dharmarajan to take over now. Mr. Dharmarajan, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening to all. I just want to check if all of you can see my presentation, please. Alok, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see you, sir.
Okay, great. So good evening to all of you. Friday afternoon, we have 200 plus people in the audience here. Thank you, Mr. Kalra, for such a very practical presentation and very, very focused on what needs to be done when you open up the factory after the lockdown period. Some very, very interesting from points from an experienced person from a company like Mahindra, who's been one of our biggest customers and who's pretty good in pretty nimble in many of these actions as well. So the three takeaways from Mr. Kalra for me is never waste a crisis. Is so true. And the pitch has changed and it's a level playing field for all, and we need to reinvent, really kind of get better. So this is kind of it's a good cue for me because my presentation is really titled Reinvention Thanks to Disruption. So we're going to discuss some of the new practices in the post-COVID area. I don't know, I would just like to start off with a little bit of humor. I know so who really drove the digital transformation of your company? The CEO and the CTO have been talking about it, but the real driver, the real change is the COVID-19 is really pushing more and more people to go digital way. And that's going to be a reality. You don't have a choice. You need to ensure that you digitize every division in your organization. You make every division intelligent and you connect every division. And that is the way we're going to talk about smart connected factory, going forward. So what's next for the world economy? If you really look at it, I strongly believe, I think we are doing the right job. We imposed the lockdown pretty much early. So we're taking care of the health concerns. We're also taking care of the economic concerns, infusing about 10% of the GDP into the economy. And I strongly believe India is in a good state to really kind of come up with a V-shaped kind of a recovery. And if you really look at it, this particular window out here, this is what happened during the global financial crisis in 2008 and 2009, where we kind of had an instant recovery. And if you really look at it, at the end of the day, we are all driven by mathematics. If you really look at the damping function out here, so you would really have a dip and then it would kind of rise and then settle down over a period of time. This is what is my personal belief. Though we keep telling that every time a crisis hits us, we always say this is different. Maybe this is a combination of health crisis as well as an economic crisis. But if you really go back to the history, there are about 20 pandemics that we have hit over the past 100 years. And it has always been typical. The the human has always kind of come back and risen. The economy kind of picked back, and it has kind of picked up over a period of time. So obviously things are not going to be the same. It's a very interesting paper from PwC. Though this is related to a little bit of financial services, a lot of things can be picked up from the concepts can be picked up on the manufacturing side as well. So we have to align our cost structure, sharpen our productivity, essentially less physical, more digital. We have to supercharge the digital transformation, and concepts like digital twin, the processes have to be digitally enabled. Carve out new revenue streams, increase R&D in the new product development, redefine your customer, understand your customer. Customer is also maybe changing over a period of time. Prepare your workforce for the new world. You saw Kalra talking about how do we ensure that we skill the people, increase retraining, ensure that they are actually adopting some of these new tools out there, and obviously at the end of the day, strengthen your capital efficiency. We saw about ROI-based solution selling, address OPEX effectivity, because he did talk about he is going to use technology as an enabler to ensure that we increase the efficiency of the organization, at the same time increasing the effectivity by increasing the R&D and coming out with some new products just in time, getting it right for the first time as well. So we need to constantly reinvent and differentiate ourselves. And as he rightly said, it's a level playing field. Every industry has got affected. I don't believe any industry was prepared for this. So everyone has got affected. So it's a level playing field, and it's a question of who now is nimble enough to kind of run with it when the situation actually kind of picks up and comes up with some new approach. So a lot of people are talking about China plus one approach. If you really look at after the global economy crisis in 2008, the China GDP went up close to about 5 times. Okay, China really became the manufacturing capital of the world. And today people are talking about, should I really have just one country or China plus one country? Of course, there are a lot of competition out there. It could be Indonesia, it could be Thailand, it could be Vietnam, it could be Cambodia. But there are a lot of things about India as well, and including China. They are talking about Chinese plus one. So there is a Chinese company strategy for Vietnam. I just read today a news item that Apple is going to shift about 20% of its manufacturing from China to India. That's a huge opportunity for us, and I think I'm sure we are better prepared in ensuring that many of those red tapeism is kind of cut, and we encourage these companies to come and invest in India. So the announcement of Apple shifting about 20% of its manufacturing from China to India is going to be pretty huge. So if you really look at the impact in India, in a pretty interesting activity, we have done pretty well in the last 20 years as well. China must have grown about 7x time. India has grown about 6 times, and we're kind of pretty long way. We have been one of the fastest growing economies, and IMF still believes that India will be one of the fastest growing economies over a period of time. So if you really look at it, you must have seen this press release where India offers land twice of Luxembourg size for firms leaving China. But if you really look at, this is the most interesting aspect. Our labor cost is still pretty low compared to China. Over a period of time, China cost of labor has gone up drastically. Only few people like Cambodia, Myanmar, and couple of other countries are actually lower than us. So we are pretty much competitive even today to really kind of wean away businesses and really scale up the way China scaled up after the global crisis. So I'm a strong believer that we should never waste a crisis, and this could be a great opportunity. This could be the time for India to really kind of take it forward. So this is some of the CEO insights coming up in May 2006, and this really talked about how China kind of picked up in a big way and how they kind of garnered the huge FDI at that point of time to become the manufacturing capital of the world. And this pandemic can actually kind of help India to kind of become big. But we are not alone. Mr. Kalra also said competition is going to come up across the world. Germany is speaking of Industry 4.0. China is talking about China 2025. Japan is talking about the whole new society 5.0. And US is talking about product definition for smart factory. And then even in India, we are talking about Industry 4.0. I don't know about, you must have heard of Samarth Udyog, Bharat 4.0. Some of these new technologies which can be a great enabler to digitize the whole manufacturing process. I just want to really kind of talk about, this is a very interesting slide. Any change that really happens, there is always a perception that we are actually kind of in a linear way, but actually change is happening in an exponential way. And you can look at the gap between our perception and the reality if you want to look at it like a disruption, or you can look at it as an opportunity. So it's your idea. Maybe 10 to 15% of the firms will not exist, but 15 to 20% of the term will come out stronger, wiser, and rest will actually kind of maybe say static, or maybe slightly go below the level that they were actually there. So when any external stimulus that kind of hits us, we have two opportunities. Either we can come out of it wiser and stronger, or we can come out of it wounded. It's a choice that we really have, and I believe India should get stronger and wiser out of this crisis. Another critical important thing that we need to really understand, that rate of labor growth is also reducing. As the economy gets developed, the laborers also kind of want to do a better quality of the job. So, and hence you may not get the kind of labor that you are actually doing in the earlier mechanization or in the earlier factories kind of a way. So we need to find a way, how do we increase productivity while you may not get labor for doing certain kind of an activities. One very interesting slide here, which is the data from Capgemini. This is an undeniable truth out there. For the last 30 years, the quality KPI has increased only by about 0.44%, and productivity has increased only by about 0.74%. This is what happened for the last 30 years. If you really look at Industry 1.0, Industry 2.0, Industry 3.0, and Capgemini believes that in the next 5 years, when people start introducing smart factories, smart connected factory, the quality is going to go up by 12x times, 5.13%, and the productivity is going to go up by about 7 times over the next 5 years. So there's a lot of anticipation. There's a lot of belief in Industry 4.0, which is actually kind of will be an enabler for the future factory, for the future smart factory, to really kind of increase the quality and productivity much larger in the last 5 years, what has not been achieved in the last 30 years. So if we look at it, some of the challenges faced by the manufacturing industries, we need to ensure that we connect the plant floor to the top floor, preventive maintenance without affecting throughput, connected quality for final inspection, better supply chain visibility, and customer facing application. And what is really involved in implementing the smart connected factory? If you really look at it, machines, the sensors connected to the machines, the data coming out of it, what kind of analytics that you do, and how do you take better informed decisions. So the data is being generated by the sensors today, but how much of it is actually being used today? So we need to understand that data is a new oil. I know, in fact, there has been some people talking about saying that data maybe start being recognized as a new asset, and it may also be kind of being reflected in the balance sheet as well. So that's a pretty interesting thing. And with Industry 4.0, you're going to have a lot of data coming out. How are you going to connect the various divisions into your company and ensure that you take informed visualization or augmented decision going forward? So this is what I believe will be the future factory, or some of the components of the smart factory. If you really look at it, now we have the computer-aided design, the performance validation or performance quality. So essentially, there is a design and engineering division which actually designs quality. If you take any part out here, how do you say the quality of the part? One is the perceived quality, essentially to say what is the fit and finish of that particular part. One is the performance quality. What happens when actually you drop this particular part? How does it really kind of perform? Is it durable? What's the life of the part? So you have the simulation technologies discussing the performance quality, and the manufacturing technologies like hexagon production, which kind of takes care of the manufacturing stuff. And then we have the metrology, because you may say, I have designed a great part, I manufactured a great part. Metrology ultimately says that the proof of the pudding is the eating, and it kind of measures and tells you, look, this is what your part is actually. This is the finish, this is the tolerances, this is the gap. And so we need to ensure that can the as designed part, as manufactured part, as measured part is one and the same. So we can connect through this digital thread or the IoT platform, the various divisions. It could be the design division, manufacturing division, inspection of the metrology division with Industry 4.0, and of course connecting the CNC machines. And we have two very senior gentlemen in the panel as well today, representing the top CNC machines in the country. And this is going to be the various components of the smart connected factory. And if you really look at it, the digital plan for operations or the maintenance and optimization out there, and how this whole thing would really kind of happen with virtual reality, augmented reality. How do you kind of service a plant? Do you kind of service the different components in the factory? Sometimes monitor this whole thing, even sitting at home, having a dashboard in front of you and understanding how your plant is functioning, how is the efficiency of the plant. So the whole idea is, can we really combine the design and engineering, the production and the metrology divisions, essentially, as I talked about, quality, design quality, manufacture quality, and measured quality, and integrate the whole suppliers and the customers, build a whole smart manufacturing system. And while doing that, what Kalra presented is so true. How do we take care of the sustainability? Because at the end of the day, if we have seen this in the last 40-45 days of lockdown, one thing was really improved is our environment out here. There has been very less pollution. We have seen the birds and the animals are much more happier. We thought that the whole planet belonged to the human being, and we kind of realized that they seem to be having much more fun while we're sitting inside home. So we need to ensure that we learn from this. How do we grow? How do we scale our operation in ensuring the sustainability factor as well? So essentially, at the end of the day, after this pandemic, you're going to have a two-speed world. You're going to have some companies who are going to be innovators, new ideas, new distribution, automation, cognitive automation, or autonomy, as we really kind of call it, intelligent automation. So it's just not automation, but the machines becomes more and more intelligent, and they're able to take a decision automatically, and then there'll be an innovators out there, and after that, or there'll be a laggards out there who are not really they're not really innovating, and they will go below the current situation, the current line. So I would like to end by saying that let's choose to be innovators, and let us really kind of let us create a autonomous future out there. So essentially, Industry 4.0, 5.0, whatever, it is a must that we need to go digital way. That's the COVID-19 is going to really push us. How do we ensure that we make our whole factory digital and make it more efficient, at the same time make it more sustainable, for us to really kind of get the true benefits of? And I strongly believe we're going to get stronger. Productivity is going to improve going forward. And with this, I would like to hand it over to the organizers out there. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dharmarajan. That was actually a very winning presentation, and I like the way you started your presentation with the whole jestful nature, and how you're saying that things aren't going to be the same afterwards, which is very true, and how we should get stronger and wiser out of this crisis, and we need to find a way to increase our productivity, which because while we do that, we may not get labor for doing certain activities. So you're absolutely right on that. And now we'll move on to the Q&A. So do we have any questions?
I think we'll take the questions probably after the panel discussion, because we are already running short of time.
Okay.
Fine. So we can take the questions after the panel discussion. So we'll move on to the next part of our webinar. So ladies and gentlemen, we are having another poll now. So we'll be having another poll with a question, and like before, you will have 30 seconds to to vote for your poll, and after 30 seconds, the results will be announced. So can we please have the poll on screen? Do we have the poll?
Yeah, I can see the poll on the screen. Yeah.
Okay. So I hope everybody can see the poll on the screen. So the question is, do you think India has an opportunity to emerge as a manufacturing destination for the world and further succeed in Make in India movement? The options are yes or no. So your time starts now. Your 30 seconds start now. You may vote. We have 5 seconds left. Can we have the results to the poll? The poll is closed now. Can we please have the results to the poll? We have received the results to the poll. 95% people say yes, that India has an opportunity to emerge as a manufacturing destination for the world and boost the Make in India movement, while 5% of people disagree. They say no. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in this poll. And now we will move on to the next part of our webinar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the most awaited part of the webinar, which is the panel discussion, which will be on manufacturing operations post-COVID-19 from survival to revival. Today's discussion will be moderated by Mr. Shekhar Jitkar, who is the Chief Editor, EM A&D India. I request the panelists to please switch off your cameras and to please turn on your cameras only once your names have been announced, so that our attendees will know exactly who you are. So I would like to hand over to Mr. Jitkar now. So Mr. Jitkar, over to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are all doing fine during the lockdown, and also in the post-lockdown, you will have a lot of challenges in front of us. So with COVID-19 evolving at a very unprecedented speed and scale, manufacturing companies are grappling with its immediate impact as both their production, supply chain operations are being disrupted, and their customers as well as the suppliers' own operations face similar challenges. So this is having an exponential effect down the whole supply network, hitting the manufacturing organizations with a lag. And with the economic uncertainty, the COVID-19 pandemic has further added a layer of complexity to the challenging environment. So in this scenario, adjusting operations in real time calls for a new approach to everything we do, be it the product we manufacture, the processes which we use, the safety measures we follow, the technologies which we deploy, the way we respond to market requirements, and the way we communicate, and most importantly, the manner we manage the workforce in the current situation. So in this context, we are organizing this panel discussion today on the topic of manufacturing operations post-COVID-19 from survival to revival. We have been listening to lots of webinars, some articles, some podcasts, and even on LinkedIn, lot of posts on how to survive. But here we took take the opportunity of discussing on revival also after the survival. So the industry veterans in this panel discussion would be deliberating on the short-term and long-term implications and consequences of COVID-19 pandemic crisis, the immediate actionable growth strategies, the approach towards deployment of advanced technologies in the current situation, and the mantra for survival and revival. So with this, I would like to call upon today's esteemed panelists, Mr. Indradev Babu, who is the Managing Director of UCAM and the President of Indian Machine Tool Manufacturers Association, Mr. T.K. Ramesh, who is the Managing Director of Micromatic Machine Tools, Mr. Shailesh Sheth, who is the Corporate Advisor and also the past President of IMDMA, Mr. Sridhar Dharmarajan, who is the Executive Vice President and Managing Director, Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence India, Ms. Sonali Kulkarni, who is the President and CEO of Fanuc India, Mr. Ravi Raghavan, who is the Managing Director of BFW. So I will have to go invisible now to accommodate all the 6 panelists here. So my webcam will be off, but I will be interacting with you. Yeah, Miss Sonali is in.
Yes, Shekhar, I'm in.
It's on your webcam.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. So here you go. I would like to start with the question to Mr. Ramesh. So what would be the short-term and long-term implications and consequences of COVID-19 pandemic crisis, and what would be the challenges manufacturers would be facing in the coming months?
Yeah, we're already into the short term. It's without realizing we've already spent 2 months, April and May, which is almost gone. So the last couple of months, people have really been trying to keep in touch with customers, talk to them, understand what's going on through their minds and how seriously they have been affected and what are their plans. An important aspect that I'd like to bring in here is, yes, COVID is something that has happened in December, November, January, whatever the last quarter of this month. But from a manufacturing perspective and from a machine tool perspective, we've already going into a year which was not doing all that well from, let's say, 1819 to 1920. So there was a lot of concern, and we had a fantastic, the entire industry, entire manufacturing had an extremely good year for 1819, and from that perspective 1920 had a lot to be desired, and already people were looking inwards. And one thing that is of prime importance at this point in time is about demand. Here we have a situation which is not a recession in the true sense of the word. It's lives and livelihoods that we've been hearing such a long time. So coming to the short-term perspective, we were asked to close suddenly. I wouldn't want to go into the details. Mr. Kalra, etc., have already spoken about how things had to be suddenly closed. Some people were able to close in a more methodic way, some were not. So the short term is about getting back and understanding, and even perhaps get used to the fact that yes, there's a factory, there's a routine that one needs to get back to. And while we are getting back to something, we are also getting back to something which is not the same that it was, not only from the long term, but from a short term, which is a huge shock. So I believe for us to even truly understand what's happening, because even right now, there is all this red, yellow, orange, green. So we're in the process of trying to understand it. And from what I've been hearing, from what my customers are telling me, what my customers are telling them, right now, what we were hearing and talking of VUCA world, they are now beginning to actually understand the VUCA world, because today morning something is green, in the evening it becomes red. So there's supply chain, there's OE. So unless everything kind of opens, so figuring out what's going to happen, understanding where is the cash, where are the people, what do we have, where we are, is what we really need to look at from a short-term perspective. And immediately when we say the long term, perhaps I believe all of us right now, soon after that, the long term will perhaps be 31st March 2021. You know, see again, like the topic of today, this is what is really going to constitute survival, where we kind of, get the framework into place and try to understand, because the new normal is not going to be visible. Whatever we are talking about, the new normal, perhaps we'll start getting into the picture only, say, maybe way into the second half of this year. So it's about calibration right now. It's about understanding, and the most important and the worrying factor is about demand. Because of the psychological and the behavioral impact that it has had, and I'll come back to this a little later. I believe this is going to play a bigger part. So I'd like to immediately first say, while it's all very nice to talk of level playing field and it's a world effect, everybody is affected. I read somewhere, we are all in the same storm. There's no question about it. But we are in the storm in different boats. We are in the storm in different boats, and we need to understand what boat we are in. So that's what the short term and the long term is going to be. And in my view, the short term is perhaps till July, August, September, and the immediate long term would be 31st March 2021.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Ramesh, you rightly mentioned about the VUCA world. We have been discussing about the VUCA world since last few years, but now actually everyone is experiencing that. So I will put the same questions to Mr. Indradev Babu. So what do you think would be the short-term and long-term action plans for now?
Yeah, Ramesh brought out several aspects, but you see, short-term is something it's a matter of survival or sustenance. What will we do? What would we want to do? The basic things that we have been taught is cash is king, fixed cost, variable cost. But all that will do it work if you're the biggest variable cost is our people, and we put together competent people over decades of effort. And how do we start to lose them? So it's not that simple how to do. But one thing is, it's going to be an innovative approach to basically sustain also. We need to look at ways and means to sustain. Then comes the long term. The long term is all about being innovative in all aspects of moving forward. So what could be your diversified products or your services? So what is it that is really ticking? We need to take a month-on-month stock taking of what is happening, because it's changing every month. The governments is announcing new policies. No doubt the government policies make all the difference. But we cannot waste away these opportunities, these policies that come up, and we need to best utilize these. But the dynamics are changing, and we need to adopt each month. So I'm looking at, for example, every day, what is the customer saying? What is the customer talking? What is his? Is he just wanting to need support to sustain, or is there something coming up in the next months that he will be interested in? So we are looking at different areas and options. And at UCAM, being diversified, we suddenly found opportunities in our motor business, and that suddenly has given us a lot of hope. So what we are going to look at is the new, the 10% of a GDP, what our Prime Minister has announced. Is this, how is it going to pan out? This should definitely start to pull demand, particularly from the MSMEs. The MSMEs, who would want to diversify, want to invest on machinery, would automatically pull machine tools. But I think this we will see in the next months as it goes by, and that gives. But this the new policy announced by the government is a big hope that is in front of us. But then is actually this sustenance of this quarter, the next quarter, and somehow this year. I think the next year things will pan out. One thing is for sure, COVID-19 is going to stay with us. Every one of us have to learn to live, work, and progress along with COVID-19. It's not going to go away. If it does go away, we have a magic cure, nothing like it. But
Yes.
it's going to be a true normal. Thank you.
Just true. Yeah, I will come to Mr. Ravi Raghavan now. Since all of you have started your manufacturing operations partly or partially recently, so I would like to ask you what would be the new normal for best practices going forward in the manufacturing sector? And would you like to recommend any new SOPs like standard operating procedures while running the business operations, probably with lesser number of people, and that too who have been constrained by the much needed social distancing norms?
Sorry, I was in the mute. Yeah. It's going to be a new thing that all of us are starting to learn. Okay, it's something like a race without a finishing line. So we don't know when it's going to end and how it's going to end. So we are trying to learn how to do that. I don't think there are going to be any standard, practices that would be relevant for everybody. But it would be a nice mix of, one has to look inward, and everybody will have his own solutions for themselves. So what at this point I'm trying to do is understand what's COVID positive for me and COVID negative for me, which means that what am I good in, what am I weak in, what should I take as a positive for me, what I should take as a negative for me, and see if I can get away from those weaknesses and things that are not strong for me, or something that I am not into, and can I practice that? It's going to be a combination of, say, manage a social distancing and at the same time be very productive. If you have a space in which you have 100 people and now you're going to use only 30 people, 33 people, 40 people, it's going to be expensive. So costs are going to go up, simple mathematics. But then can you improve your productivity overnight 3 times that you are able to cover that cost? It's not going to happen. So it definitely is going to hit the margins. It's going to hit the productivity. But people will have to find a new way of doing things. Somebody will have a lot of opportunity for automation. Somebody may not have. So even some things that look very interesting today may not look interesting tomorrow. Something that we may want to do may not be able to do that. So everything that will have a much higher value going forward. I look at it this way. In the short run, yes, all of us will be under pressure, individually or as companies. So costs will be a major thing. We will go for something that's cost effective, that's cheaper. I mean, the cost of living and the cost of lifestyle, right? So we'll give away things which we cannot, it doesn't really affect our life. Similarly, people will give away products, give away things that they may not need for the minimum production. But I see in the medium and long term, people will premium the value in anything, the product or the service. Because now you have a space of 100 square meter, you have to produce something which has a triple the value of that which you were getting earlier. So either you automate it or you do a lot of engineering in that, or you add a lot of value to that product, which gives more value to the customer. That may be the only way to go, but that can't happen immediately. It will take some time. So in a years, 2 years, 3 years perspective, I think that's the way everything, not only our product or machine tools or things like that, everything will go. Right. So that's my take on this whole situation.
Yeah, I think that was very well articulated by Mr. Vijay Kalra also. Thanks, Mr. Kalra, for sharing that. It was very practically oriented. Now I will ask the same question probably to Ms. Sonali, who Fanuc has also recently started their operations partially. So what would be the new normal for best practices in this, considering lesser number of people working and then social distancing norms?
Shekhar, thank you. I agree completely with my friend Ravi here. There is going to be no standard normal. And frankly, even though we talk confidently, all of us are swimming in the dark.
Yeah, that's true.
The kind of economic step back, the kind of job losses, I don't know who's going to buy a car or a two-wheeler other than pent-up demand, or even a cell phone. And as it is, we had overcapacity in 1920, much overcapacity. So that's the very basic playground into which we are walking back after 2 months. So, but we believe, and if you have conviction, we should play for the long term. Try to understand what the customers need. Try to listen, learn, and of course, there is no question about following government set norms. In fact, a step beyond that, whatever, because the government has so many conflicting pulls on it, whereas we are much luckier in that we run much smaller enterprises, and we have to take that responsibility as well as to how to run operations with these new norms and yet be productive, be meaningful, and yeah, so that's we have to experiment and keep progressing and review all the time and refine our way forward. I'm sorry, don't have beautiful, well articulated single comment.
No, that was very well articulated, very practical thought. So I will move to Mr. Sridhar now, since it's coming to, we are talking about the next question about the emerging technologies. So I'm sure the emerging technologies such as digitalization or manufacturing intelligence will definitely play a role in helping us in coming out of this situation. So what exactly that role would be going forward in continuing the business with the same efficiency and profitability as earlier? And what should be the approach towards deployment of these advanced technologies in the current situation?
Hey, thank you, Shekhar. Thank you for this opportunity. Now, first, let's discuss the recovery paths. So, because this particular crisis is a health crisis and an economic crisis is combined. And every country has come up with a health policy, has come up with an economic policy. So let's health policy on the y-axis and economic policy on the x-axis. If the health policy is effective and the economic policy is effective, I expect a V-shaped recovery. If the health policy is poor and economic policy is effective, then I expect a W-shaped recovery. If the health policy is very effective and economic policy is poor, then we have a U-shaped recovery. And if both are poor, then there's no recovery. It's an L-shaped. It's a long, prolonged activity. So I believe India is definitely has done infusing about 10% of the GDP into the economy. The economic policy would be effective. Of course, there are only two countries who have done more than that. One is 13% and one is 20%. And health policy also, I think we seem to have done pretty well till now. We have to wait and watch where we are, because we are really yet to really kind of flatten. We seem to be growing, but growing at a much smaller space. So this is a recovery aspect of it. The second thing is some of the other drivers aspect, as Prime Minister talked about Atmanirbhar or self-reliance. Then there is a China plus one policy, maybe due to inter-country conflicts or just to ensure redundancy itself. And I showed one slide which says that we still have a low wage rate compared to China and many other countries out there. But we need to be better than the others to take on China 2025. We need to converge our engineering, our IT and manufacturing skills. So some of the technology that we have to really implement it is very, very clear. We have to do more and more digital. There has to be a digital transformation in the whole company. We have to really have a connected plant floor. The whole plant has to be connected to improve operational efficiency. Preventive maintenance without affecting throughput. So you have some kind of an intelligence built in. The machines have sensors and they kind of give a feedback. and you don't want to wait for the machine to break down to really affect your whole throughput. So you have preventive maintenance, you replace the machine when you get to know that it's going to fail after a certain cycle. Connected quality for final inspection, as I was talking about, design quality, manufacturing quality, and measuring quality. Can we all connect through a digital thread and ensure that as designed, as manufactured, as measured part is one and the same? Better supply chain visibility and obviously customer facing self-service. So I would say Industry 4.0 is the way to go. Smart connected manufacturing is the way to go. And today there is technology available, there is a hardware available, software available, people are available with the knowledge to really kind of implement some of these technologies. So I think COVID-19 is really accelerating all the companies out there to adopt Industry 4.0 is what I believe.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Rakwan, I have another aspect to it. Like there was a question to Mr. Kalra as well, that while adopting or investing in new technologies like automation or digitalization, so any like manufacturer may think that the demand is less, so there are no demand for their products or technology solutions. So why should I invest in automation technology or digitalization technology? So what should be the approach towards these technologies?
It's to me?
Yeah, to Mr. Raghavan.
Okay. Just elaborating on Sridhar's point, that will answer your question as well. I think COVID is like a catalyst, right? People were into digital in some form or the other, but it was with a huge amount of push. I mean, people didn't really see much of an incentive in that, things like that, right? Actually, this may help companies to move into digitization, value creation through digitization in a much faster rate. People will think of different ways of doing, and I think that is going to bring the big change in the way it is going to happen. Now, why should people do it when already the markets were down 30%, and again this will bring down, so everybody's going to sit on 50%, 60% extra capacity. The way they will look at it would be more sensible now. So let's take a line. You have 5 machines. People will not automate the whole line. People will look at a bottleneck machine, bottleneck process, bottleneck they're saying, and try to automate so that the whole efficiency of the factory or the line or the product comes up. So people will also innovate ways to adopt this. Now, what this has also taught is the dependence on labor, at least if they are skilled, is going to be now more and more difficult. We can't really be so open that yes, everything is available, people are easily available, we can adopt and get anybody and use them. That's not going to happen. I think the scare for some more time on the for them to be closer to their home, to the lives, to things is going to continue. So people will use automation there to be more reliable to their customers, that you can depend on me, I'm not depending on so many other factors. So automation will happen. But as I said, I think the premium will be on these things now, not on only on the quality of the product, but the quality of the reliability of the whole supply. It's not on the reliability of the product. But how much can I mean, like it was being talked earlier, even just before the COVID, that companies that will have a very strong supply chain will be the ones which will succeed. Not only the strongest company, but the company which will be stronger in front, that is have a great relationship with the customer, but also have a great relationship with the supply partners. And that's where digitization will help. So for example, we went on to create a subsidiary which connects not only the customer BMW, but BMW supplier as well. Exactly what Sridhar was showing. Connect the top floor and the shop floor. Connect outside of the customer and inside of the company. And CFTs, which were cross-functional teams, which are till now within the company to solve a problem or do an innovation, now will become intercompany. That means in that CFT, you will have a customer, you will have a supplier, etc. Who we may be geographically very far off from you. Then how do you connect them and how do you transact with them? That's where the digitization will happen. So we will find newer use and applications of digitization. The same vanilla application that bring a automation, put it on a machine and run may not work.
Okay. Yeah, I'll ask the next question to Mr. Shailesh Sheth now. You have been a veteran in the industry and you have seen the industry operating and ups and downs in the industry for a long time. But I believe this kind of crisis must be the first time in your lifetime as well. So what should be the attributes of a winning plan for navigating the industry post-pandemic? What should be the immediate actionable growth strategies and how to leverage them?
Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Sheikh. Hello. Can you check your microphone? Can you just unmute your microphone?
Is that clear now?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So coming to the question, I think everybody agrees that we really don't know what kind of scenario we are going to look at the other side of COVID-19. And therefore, I have 3 or 4 very specific things to say, and I would come straight to these because I think we otherwise would run short of time. The first point I want to make is a little controversial, debatable statement, which I would say is watch your cash flow, not your profits, right? I think the next 1 or 2 years, stay liquid and stay viable is going to be more important than profit utilizable for purposes of growth. So if you get business opportunities which are not on the profitable parameter acceptable to you, but it gets your business going, it gets the wheels of your factory moving, it gets your whole supply chain becoming more active than before. I think the whole manufacturing has come into what I call some kind of a fear psychosis, and it has got completely stuck, as we say, like the wheels of a cart in mud. And you need to sort of, with one jerk, you have to give it some kind of a momentum. And for doing that, I think this is very important. So watching inventory, watching everything, and erring on the side of cash flow, maybe even with or without profit in the short term. That is going to be, in my opinion, a very, very important thing. And a lot of people tend to think, oh, if I don't get so much percentage margin, I don't take that order. Maybe the time has come to rethink on those strategies. The second thing I think already mentioned by one of the speakers before me is the issue of flexibility. But I'm using the word flexibility more on a larger sense. The way things are moving, entire business model, your entire strategic framework, which market segments you want to attack, which product positioning you want to achieve, all of this will have to come back on the table for a rediscussion in the new context. And maybe some of them are valid, keep them, but some of them are maybe wanting to be tweaked and some of them wanting to be changed. The important thing is, please make sure that you do not treat your past success as a certificate for your future success. It may not happen that way because the entire context is going to be different. So please bring it up with an open mind and question it yourself. The issue about flexibility, I would like to mention what I heard day before yesterday, and if I heard it correctly, it may be a big game changer for a lot of medium, small, and micro enterprises. I heard the finance minister say that all government tenders up to 200 crores will not be global tenders.
if this is really translated into practice, that means entire purchase of capital goods, particularly machine tools, will be entirely reserved for the Indian machine tool industry. I hope you realize that. The point then for me to answer is, do I have the right product to offer to those customers? And that is where flexibility comes in. Am I flexible enough to change my product mix, to change my manufacturing processes, to change my organizational financing transaction pattern to suit the defense requirement or public sector requirement or whichever it is. So I think this is where flexibility will enable you to encash an opportunity. If you're not flexible, you will not be able to encash that opportunity, and the auto sector may take like a long tail of the anaconda. It might take a couple of years, 3-4 years before it starts to make any major investments. So I think be flexible is a very important mantra to follow. It was also mentioned that labor shortage is going to be another major factor. This may not be for medium to higher, bigger enterprises, but for small enterprises, this is definitely going to mean quite a big hit, particularly the contract labor that we employ. A lot of those have migrated. And there is a lot of debate, are they going to come back, are they not going to come back, etc. My personal take on this is that you're seeing a very, very significant, drastic, and close to permanent change in the entire migratory. And therefore, you have to think that, should I therefore move mountain to mammoth? Why migratory labor has happened is because there's too much of investment in certain pockets. Take example, machine tools. Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka comprise more or less 80-90% of the machine tool production, right? And why not have some of these manufacturing go to UP and Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Odisha and even Bengal or Chhattisgarh, areas where there is labor available? Then migration doesn't have to happen. Dispersal of industry on a broader national scale will get driven by this COVID, whether we like it or not. This will happen. To what extent we can move maybe foundries, maybe heat treatment shops, maybe lower end, lower technology or non-automatable processes to some of these areas by establishing satellite units is something that is obviously company specific. Each company has to work out. But in short, what I'm trying to say is that even to manage the enterprise where you are, maybe taking more skilled people, maybe employing more technology, maybe employing more automation, fine. You can maintain that as your core, but you have to be flexible and do some out-of-box thinking with regard to how you want to manage your enterprise. I think time has come now that machine tool industry, at least the top 25-30 companies, are of a size where they can afford to be multi-location companies instead of being concentrated on a single location. This is something the machine tool industry needs to bring the neck out of the sand like an ostrich and look at the world, wider world in India. And the last point I want to make is that the changes are going to happen. And I think somebody mentioned that the changes are happening so fast that you don't know what is like a very typical saying, if you don't know tomorrow's news today, you are out of the business yesterday. So if the changes are going to happen so fast, it essentially means that your response has to be equally fast or even faster. Because what you as a CEO are supposed to do is to anticipate that change, or at least to some extent anticipate the broad contours of the change, even if you don't know specifically where it is going to be hit, and make your organization flexible enough to adopt that change and agile enough to respond to that change in a very, very rapid manner. If you don't do that, the change will overpower you. And I think COVID has given us that example. Countries that were slow in responding to this COVID, who were complacent, have been overwhelmed by what happens. And I think the most classic example recently is that of Russia, when they sort of really thought that they are going to be the country that is going to be saved out of the whole thing. Now suddenly the whole scale is going to be spiraling up. But anyway, coming to small and medium enterprise, let me just close by summarizing that the key things are going to be flexibility of your entire business model and all your policies. Nothing should be taken as sacrosanct. Everything should be reviewed and reevaluated in terms of the new context. Respond with great amount of speed and agility. Make sure that your future growth takes into account multi-location enterprise, and finally, don't lose sight on your cash flow. More or less every morning, afternoon, and night, look at your cash flow. That these are the four messages that I thought that would be relevant to you, all of you. Thank you.
Yes, that's very good. Very well drafted comments from you, Mr. Sheth. Mr. Ramesh, would you like to add your thoughts on this?
Yeah, again, coming back, to the issue of looking ahead. Yes, short term, long term, like I was mentioning when I started, and then comes what after that, and where is it, what after survival. So like what Mr. Sheth just now said, it's about staying alive to fight another day. And this is where I believe that the positive aspects, yes, China +1, India +1, government, infrastructure, all that is fine. They definitely help, they definitely aid, but they don't make the changes. If that has to happen, then we have to do something about it. It's not just any government. I don't want to get into politics about good enough, bad enough, but this is something that we will have to do. So there, I personally believe that look, at the end of the day, whatever has to be made, it has to be consumed. Now, where is consumption going to happen? Consumption is going to happen where there are people. And where are they people? So in that context, I don't think we can so easily rule out India or China, because these are going to be the places where, from a population perspective, look, one thing that COVID has taught us and shown us is, look at America, look at Europe, look at their lifestyles, look at how fragile they were despite all the technology, despite all the industry 4.0, despite I personally believe, yes, this movement has been happening eastward. People are in the east. So if consumption has to happen, and this is where whatever the so-called shift in, make something which is cheap and then send everywhere else, or go to competitive advantage of country. So that also is kind of taking a reface. So I'd like to come back to what I was trying to say. We are in the same storm, but on different boats. So one thing that I believe, there are markets here, there are people here, and that is the long-term strength that we will have after survival. And to survive and to grow, like what Mr. Sridhar was saying, there may be 15% companies that may do very well, 15% that may go away. Now to do that, again, what Ravi perhaps was trying to, you need to understand where is your competitive advantage. And that is what it really means in your vote. And if you're confused about what is competitive advantage, now this is hard times, and this will make it very, very clear to you what is your competitive advantage. And then you need to really build on this competitive advantage and take full use of it. While we talk of automation, one aspect is the automation in the shop floor. The other aspect is automation among people itself. See, organizations were creating value, and organizations were creating value through individuals working in groups. A significant shift that's going to happen here is individuals will start creating value, and a lot of that will be working by themselves or working independently. So behavioral change between dependence and interdependence is something that this crisis, like what Raghavan was saying, CFT, whether it is within the same company, whether it is within the departments of in this company, or whether it is within external supply chain, a lot of automation needs to happen in communication. And this is one area which I believe that India and we as people, see, we always believed in strengths, and the strength of skills and strength of individuality, where processes, we believe in 5S on the shop floor, but 5S in terms of our drawings, 5S in terms of looking at things starting from 3D, 5S in animation, 5S in use of technology to enable customer to service his machines himself, where the expertise can come from a distance, but the action happens locally. Exactly like how globalization is going to bring into localization. So use of technology, use of digitization has to happen. Now, digitization, is it machine sensors? Is it about communication? Is it about situation on the spot, how it gets back, and whether it's visual, whether it's animation, whether it's 3D? So a lot of that kind of digitation is also needs to happen, and I believe that that is something that really needs to get a spur, and I believe people are beginning to realize it. So organizations creating value to individuals creating value, and the ability of individuals to connect, being away and creating value, these are those mindset changes and behavioral changes that we really need to bring about. And I'd just like to give an example. We believe that we have to support our customers, and our customers also believe that they should get the best support from I'm talking of machine tools as a machine tool supplier. So support typically meant somebody has a problem, then somebody jumps onto a plane or jumps onto a car or jumps onto a motorcycle and rushes there to make sure that he supports the customer. Customer is happy, you're happy. But all these days, all of us, our products had maybe instruction manuals or drawings, but nobody really looked at them in detail. And the whole thing was felt that this is not. So this interdependence about we need to get the job done. There is a cost to this. There is a cost of a person coming. There is a loss of time. And here, by these digitization tools, that could be saved, and getting the machine up and running is about utilizing and making another part, not about warranty, guarantee, my job, your job. And again, we spoke about people, labor. So perhaps COVID is going to reposition and help us and help our customers to look at it. See, all of us had websites, all of us had many things, but customers, or we also did not force those kind of changes to happen, because we believe service is running there and jumping in front of him and holding his hands. So some of those shifts, some of those investments, really I believe is what will be about understanding competitiveness, uncovering this competitiveness, and that is how you bring in differentiation. And this is what will make companies stand out. And again, market is here, people are here, so that is what I believe will be after survival.
Right. So COVID had probably also okay, there are a lot of negative aspects to it, but some positive aspects to it also, that we have to change ourselves, we have to change our mindset, we have to make use of technology as far as possible and save our cost and not to depend too much on the supplier.
Absolutely. So and I don't believe that China can get just replaced like that in 1 year or 5 years. Not it's a planning fallacy if we believe that it's going to happen.
True. Mr. Sridhar, if you remember, our Prime Minister had in his speech just mentioned that we want to be a self-reliant country, and there has to be not just the incremental change but a quantum jump, and that only the technology-driven businesses will survive. So how do you think going forward, how will these things shape up in the Indian industry? Can you unmute your microphone?
Yes, yeah, sorry. So I just want to kind of add to what Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Shailesh said so beautifully. As Ramesh said, we are all in the same storm, but we are in different boats. And some boat may have some holes as well, and some may be pretty solid. This is what Mr. Shailesh said, that what is your cash position today, and how are you going to manage the cash? So understand where you are and start from there. But also one thing Mr. Ramesh pointed out very, very nicely, that individuals will also start adding value, and organization will also start adding value. And with this, the fiscal policy and the economic policy, which is also kind of pretty robust, I would say that that's what I said, we have only two choices. This is a stimulus which has kind of hit us. We either come out stronger and wiser, or we come out wounded. That's the only difference. And people, just like China took advantage of the global financial crisis in 2008 and increased the GDP by about 5 times from 2008 to 2020, they were just about $3 trillion GDP at that time, and today they are about 14 point something trillion dollar of GDP. So if you it is going to be a two-speed world after this whole COVID-19. So innovators will actually kind of start discussing what are the new patterns, what are the new things that we do, what innovation we'll have to do. And it is a wrong perception that innovations are always expensive. Innovations are not all innovations are expensive. And as Mr. Ramesh rightly pointed out, where each and every individual adding a value could be seen as an innovation, and people who are not going to innovate would kind of stagnate or maybe even go down what it was today. So government has started giving initiative for digital transformation and smart manufacturing with Samarth Udyog 4.0. I think we have to really kind of digitize the whole factory and see how we can actually kind of do the same productivity with less number of people by doing an autonomous, just not automation. I'm talking autonomous, which is cognitive automation, which is intelligent automation, and that's what we need to do. And you can decide. Somebody very interestingly said that discuss Mr. Raghavan, I think, where he said that no, don't try to innovate the whole chain. Discuss where are the bottlenecks and try to do some innovation out there and slowly expand that innovation across the board. So you need to collect the data at all stages, learn how to improve by leveraging the data. Data is going to be the new oil. We need to move towards augmented decision making. Machine learning and AI is going to be, and these are really not expensive anymore. These are very, very cost effective. Augmented reality, machine learning, and AI are very cost effective. And we need to reskill the whole organization with the new way of doing things. And I would strongly say that those who adapt will grow, and those who don't adapt will not grow. I think that's simple. So I would say digitization is the key. Make the whole different divisions of the organizations intelligent, and connect all the divisions of the organization infinitely. So data has to be exchanged, the data has to be utilized, and so digitization, I would say, is the first step that we need to kind of take it for us to really kind of once you get out of this and innovate and grow, we need to adapt to the new condition. It's going to be the new normal, and I guess COVID has really kind of accelerated us to digitize our factories much faster than we would have done originally otherwise.
Correct. Mr. Babu, would you like to add some comments, your comments on this, considering the whole supply chain which is suffering?
Yeah, Mr. Shekhar, all your questions is a telescope, all are connected. But actually right now it is telescoped, they're all one into the other. So let me try to answer some things, in a very general way. That today, let me talk the perspective of an SME. Okay. So first of all, we already talked about, we heard Mr. Shailesh say talk about, the cash we need to conserve and sustain. But the sentiment has become so strong that unless people spend, where is going to be the demand? Now, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, has 20,000, 10% of our GDP is going to come in. That is a huge positive, and that is going to make a change. So for SMEs, this is an opportunity. Long ago, Mr. Shailesh had taught us something about glass ceiling. Okay, how SMEs go and get stuck up, and they don't, they don't find a way to go beyond that. I think now the smarter of the SMEs will have an opportunity to shatter and go beyond that. I think innovation is in all aspects. He talked about flexibility, but flexibility is just not about product or the way you go to customer. It is also about how you will deploy your people. So how could you adapt people with new skills, or even change the mentality? I mean, the CEO has to change his culture right from top and be highly dynamic. So be able to change strategies or have various plan B. Let's say the opportunity in the next 6 months, things suddenly change and new opportunities come up. How is a company going to be ready to capture that? or suddenly the situation gets really worse. So how are you going to be flexible enough? How are you going to be prepared? How are you going to have your plans in place to be prepared for those situations? Push comes to shove, and then you are stuck. So what are you going to do? How are you going to save yourself and have a way forward? We know about employing people who are not your employees. Today with the WFH, work from home, people are free. They can work for different companies simultaneously. So would you be innovative enough to the costliest people to say, until this pandemic is over, you're still an employee, but I'll allow you to work for anybody else. But then when the things come back, you join, but I'm going to pay a fraction of the salary. So it's all about new ways of working to manage your cash flow and be ready for moving forward when the opportunities come up. Meanwhile, how are you going to be ready with different product solutions or service solutions? What are the opportunities? So I think this is a mental, it's actually, I would say, while it's a stress strain, but it's an interesting challenge, interesting time for the CEO at this, I'll tell you. While we really are, it's a tough situation, the tough gets going now.
Sure.
Those are my share to you, Mr. Shekhar.
Yes, that's true. So I will turn to our last question now. I will ask it to Ms. Sonali. What could be the road ahead to turn this disruption into an opportunity for India to emerge as the manufacturing destination for the world and further succeed in the Make in India movement?
Thank you, Shekhar. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Lovely. I was about to leave, but lovely. I'm happy that we could catch.
Yeah.
95% of your audience thought that India could be the next destination. That's very encouraging. But seriously, I believe the road ahead can be very promising. Indeed, we can be the next global manufacturing destination. And I feel it is up to us. It is to the players ourselves, all of us in this webinar. It will be a new world. All our senior veterans have talked about it. We will need to return to fundamental principles, be nimble, be flexible, but also be very devoted to fundamental principles of business, which have endured over centuries. But the number one thing which will help us succeed, I feel, will be hunger, focus, drive, whatever you call it. It's very popular. We always compare China and the centrally planned economy, the beautifully managed exchange rate, the credit that the government makes available, the helpful civil servants. But if you really look at China, the birth of the new economic order, just less than 25 years after Chairman Mao passed away, that legendary head of China who, basically killed private enterprise altogether. Within 25 years of that, China had transitioned into a market economy, and all of it was led by private enterprise, which we don't ordinarily come to hear about. And these were private manufacturing firms operating very much like capitalist firms in other parts of the world where such economies are welcomed. And China in the 70s was not just the world's most populous country, but it was also the poorest per capita income basis. And the investment, for example, in education per capita was just about equal to Bangladesh in those days. So, and 25 years later, it emerges as with so much momentum in the economy that all of us, no discussion is complete without talking about China. And they reduced poverty, they had momentum in economy, they created jobs, they moved from agrarian to industrial economy, they created a new middle class. And all of this, if you study, was led by self-organized entrepreneurs who took advantage indeed of the new opportunities made available by economic reform. So our Prime Minister has announced this very handsome package. The finance minister fleshed it out to some extent. But finally, I think what is going to take us forward will be our own, the gentlemen and the ladies in this room. And if you look back, if you look at what made Indian IT industry name to reckon with in the world, it was not government of India. It was Narayan Murthy. It was Mr. F.C. Kohli and those gentlemen. They led the way. They took risks. They achieved success. They formed NASSCOM, and the government followed. It is no different for much closer to home. The two-wheeler industry. It was led by Brij Mohan and Venu and Bajaj. And why should we not talk about our own selves? We have India's top machine builders sitting right here in this webinar.
Yes.
Giants like BFW, like the ACE Group, and they've all reached where they have based on the conviction, the power of their founders, their teams, their own singular focus. Government did not give any one of them any great handout. So I think we can indeed become world number one or the world's destination, but it will have to come with a beating heart in all of us. And
yes, that's true.
Yeah, because I don't think government of India can or will do anything very much more than, you know, yeah, I think
that's
anyhow,
more of encouragement. That's more of an encouragement probably for industry to take their own steps or own efforts to move into that direction.
They already are taking their own steps.
Yes.
And the thing is to have conviction. Why should we be second class? You know, we're always negotiating lowest price. Of course, price is important. But if we play on the global stage, you know, somebody said out here, my friend Mr. Sailesh said that the global tenders will now be only available to MSME. That's lovely. But why can't we be machine tool manufacturers for the world? We can. We can.
Correct.
That's my two cents on this one. Thank you.
Yes, that's very practical. Good one. Okay. Due to time constraint, we need to stop here now. So I would like to thank each one of you for your time and making the discussion interesting and interactive. Like as Mr. Babu said, my questions are very well connected. The idea behind that is we are going to write a story on that, so we should get a proper flow in that. That was the idea behind it, to get the questions correct. Okay, so I will. So I will just take a couple of questions from the audience.
I think they're bored.
Yeah, everyone, there are 3 to 4 questions who are asking about the recent package announced by the government. How will it really help the MSME as well as the corporate sector to come out of this situation? So anybody would like to comment on that? As there are 4 to 5 questions only on this.
Mr. Shailesh can answer, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, Mr. Sheikh.
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can.
Yeah,
We
okay.
can.
I think first of all, to make comment before the whole package is announced is like jumping the gun. A lot of politicians are doing it. I don't want to be a part of it. I think they still have one more tranche to happen tomorrow. While the earlier part was going on, I was watching on my mobile phone the finance minister announcing the third tranche on agriculture. But the way things are being spanned out, it is very clear that this is not just something to fight COVID. This whole thing that is being unfolded before us is something much more than just a fight against COVID. So I think we have to realize that this is a much broader vision that is being unfolded, and not just something that will help us for a year or two to fight COVID. So that is one issue. Second issue is that at least the MSME part is fairly largely clear. in my opinion, I think the measure about guaranteeing the loans to the MSMEs, I think is going to go a long way in removing the liquidity issue applicable to MSMEs. Now, the question mentioned earlier in the beginning about the ability of the bank to loan the money to an MSME based on its evaluation of the risk factor is something one cannot take away that right from the bank, right? I mean, the bank will have to make a judicious evaluation of its own risk. We don't want another set of NPAs to develop and then start debating about bad bank and what have you. So subject to that, I think there is going to be quite a bit of liquidity coming in to MSMEs with the Make in India initiatives, with the local, local, whatever that slogan is. Fundamental issue is that develop products locally so that you don't get into a situation where, because of, particularly in this example, because of China not able to supply raw material and components, your value chain is completely disrupted. So I think this is to be seen in that context rather than seen in the context of being in introverted country or things like that. So I think all these is going to open up new opportunities for our MSMEs. The issue I again and again want to repeat: are our MSMEs ready to exploit those opportunities? Are they flexible enough? Are they willing to make the required changes? You heard digitalization of processes, doing teamwork, individual being more is important as much as the organization, right? Customer centricity, the entire value chain, whole supply chain will compete with another supply chain. All those mentioned by various panelists are all equally valid and important. But what does it all mean? It means that at the end of the day, the CEO or the entrepreneur of the MSME will have to make those decisions. And for that, he will have to have an open mind and a great amount of flexibility to be able to do this. So with that, I think I would want to conclude to say that my personal opinion, this tomorrow, the infrastructure part is still awaited. So we will have to wait and see what happens tomorrow. But overall, I think whether some parts are included, some parts are not included, sufficient, not sufficient. We have done 10%, somebody has done 13%. I don't think these debates are anything more than theory. There are economists on both sides of the spectrum who speak for and against. We will never come to any conclusion on this. Save the fact, how does it impact me? And this we will know only maybe a few months down the road, not something immediately. But I am, over a period of time, I'm optimistic that the tail will definitely turn upwards one day. And that day will be sooner than later.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Yeah, I will just take the last question. There is a question which is saying, how the companies, whether it's corporate or MSME sector, they can help each other down the line in the whole supply chain to help each other to come out of this situation in terms of, say, technology help or cash flow management or financial norms or sharing of labors. So how that that approach can help in both SME as well as the corporate sector. Anybody would like to answer, Seb?
Ravi should.
Okay, let me. As the compassion, came in so much during COVID, I think that will go to businesses as well. I think what is going to happen is in some of the industries, this is happening, which is called co-opetition. You will have a cooperation and also a competition. And you see the electronic goods industry, you make a product, you give it to your competition as well as you work together on a common project. Let us take the LED screens, for example. Okay, one guy makes it, but the TVs, he competes with it. So you will cooperate in a much different way going forward. you will compete with a purpose. That means it will not be a win or defeat between a competition, but it will be a win-win between a company and a customer, right? That's been the success of consumer durable products. And in doing that, what happened is they narrowed down. There were very few people who focused on very few things and became experts in that. And the whole industry gained. So you had the best of LED touchscreens coming in, done by few people, used by everybody, right? So the amount that went into innovation, getting into, so the time was spent not on fighting a competition, but in developing newer things. This change may happen. Labor skills may get shared between companies. Can we have a common pool of, say, electricians, and anybody, you, me, or XYZ picks up, uses that for its own this thing, instead of each company developing its own skill, right? So these are the changes that will happen and will happen very fast, because costs will become very, very expensive. And when you narrow that down, people will spend time more on making that a great, if there's a great electrician available for me or for you, right? Our end product is going to be good. I mean, then we are not competing on having a good person, but we'll be competing on having a good product, engineering that product, etc. So I believe these are some changes that's going to happen, will happen very fast.
Okay, that's fine. So thanks a lot again to all the panelists. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to the earlier speakers, Mr. Chandrakant Salunke and Mr. Vijay Kalra. And thanks to each one of you for your valuable insights on the topic. I'm sure going forward, we'll definitely come out of this situation. The countries which are suffering, they have suffered most than as compared to India. So hopefully we'll have a chance to make our country as the world destination for manufacturing, with the government support as well as the industry's own efforts. So I would like to conclude it here, and I will pass it on to Julie.
Thank you, Shekhar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shekhar.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was a very engaging panel discussion, a very beautifully well done panel discussion, and it was very engaging, very gripping. Moving on, we still have questions for Mr. Dharmarajan's presentation. So can we please have questions for Mr. Dharmarajan's presentations and have them answered?
Do you see any questions?
There is one question. Yes, there is one question. Would like to know how the technology partners like Hexagon will be supportive to SMEs in terms of accessibility of their technology on an affordable way in the current situation, with some supportive terms after this hard time.
Oh, for sure. Actually, we are, first thing what we're doing is to give confidence to the MSME that they can actually convert their existing factory to a smart factory. We are developing some working centers of smart factory in the southern region in Bangalore, and as well as in the northern region in Delhi right now. And we hope we'll actually kind of create these various demo centers of smart factory to give confidence to the MSME that these concepts are not just for the large corporations. These concepts are applicable for every single company. And it's a question of the way where you want to start and how you want to scale. Yeah, so it is not that, as I said earlier, many of these innovations are very, very inexpensive. It is not very expensive. So we can start small, see the benefits, and then start scaling. So we would be more than flexible. You have my email IDs, you have my number. Please contact me. And this has been our mission to really kind of empower many of these companies to create an autonomous future. And we would be very, very flexible in the terms that we can actually execute, because I strongly believe that India has an opportunity right now because every time a new technology comes, you can leapfrog, just like the way we leapfrog the fixed line telephony to mobile telephony. We are one of the largest mobile users in the world. I think we must have lost the first phase of manufacturing to China after the global financial crisis. I believe it's an opportunity for us to leapfrog through smart factory and through new concepts like additive manufacturing and a lot of new ways of doing things. And we can actually kind of get back, leapfrog China and do some of these activities in these. So only innovators who adopt can really survive. And we can decide on the scale of this innovation to really kind of ensure that depending on the cash that you really have and depending on the flexibility that that we can definitely offer, we can create a win-win agreement between the organizations.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll take other questions offline. Julie, just proceed ahead.
Yes. Yes, so we'll take the other questions offline. If you have any more questions for any of our panelists or presenters, you please feel free to send them to us and we can have them answered via email. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have one last poll for which, again, like the other last two polls, you will have 30 seconds to answer. So can we please have the poll on screen? We have the poll on screen. The question is, how do you think the current situation will affect the adoption of advanced technologies like digitalization in manufacturing? Your options are adoption of advanced technologies will increase or adoption of advanced technologies will decrease. You have 30 seconds to give your choice. So your time starts now.
हाँ आप पे था हाँ हाथ पे था तब तो उसने कहा था कि मैं तब तो कुछ सामान ले आऊँ मैंने कर लिया
You have 5 seconds more. Time is up. We'll be closing the poll now. Can we please have the results of the poll on the screen? We have the results. The results are that adoption of advanced technologies will increase as 96%, while only 4% of people say that adoption of advanced technologies will decrease. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of this poll. Now, moving on, I'd like to summarize today's event. So today's event is started with Mr. Saunke, who told us that without survival we cannot revive, and he told us about some of the suggestions he's given to the Honorable Minister for the manufacturing industry, and he told us how COVID has given us a very educational system, and how at home sitting at home we can think about the future. After him, it was Mr. who took over, and he very aptly said that when we restart, the team will be the most important, and we need to we know what to do before a shutdown. But this was like you rightly said, it was very abrupt, and he also threw light on how cycles times will change with needs, and basically, and how there is a need to go slow, or else we can suffer. And also he told us that error-proof safety and health and quality are even more critical in order to remain in the game. After him, it was Mr. Dharmarajan who took over. So Mr. Dharmarajan told us that India is in a good shape to recover, and he was absolutely right when he said that things aren't going to be the same, and we need to redefine the customer. The customer might be changing, and we need to prepare the workforce for the new world and strengthen capital efficiency. And this could be the time for India to take this up as an opportunity, and we need to find a way to increase productivity, and we need to better our supply chain visibility. And what is involved in implementing smart connected manufacturing is we need to understand that data is the new oil, is one very important point that we made. After that, we had the panel discussion. All the panelists, they gave some very, very intriguing, very interesting pointers. They gave us some very fresh perspectives on the current situation and how we can move ahead once the lockdown is lifted and once we go back to work. So Mr. Ramesh TK, he made a very pivotal point saying that demand is of prime importance right now, and the short term is about getting used to the fact that there is a routine to get back to, and that the new normal will perhaps get way into the second half of this year into the picture. So I think that was a very valid point. Mr. Indradev Babu, he told us that we need to look at ways and means to sustain, which is very true. Long term is about being innovative in all your aspects of moving forward, and the dynamics are changing, and we need to adopt each month. We'll also have to live, relearn, and progress with COVID-19 as it's not going away anytime soon. So I think that's a very impactful statement you made, sir. Uh, so Mr. Ravi Raghavan, he told us that they are trying to understand what they are good at and what they are weak at, and see how they can get away from these weaknesses and practice more. Ms. Sonali Kulkarni, she told us that even though we talk confidently, we are still swimming in dark waters, in the dark. And this is something that even I agree on. Even I believe Mr. Shekhar Jitkar agreed on. And we need to listen and learn, and we need to try to understand the customer's needs right now and be meaningful. So we have to keep experimenting, and we have to look for better ways to progress. Then Mr. Sridhar Dharmarajan took over. He told us that we have to wait and watch where we are, which is apt, I believe. Industry 4.0 is the way to go, and smart connected manufacturing is the way to go. So COVID is actually accelerating all the companies out there to adopt Industry 4.0. Then Mr. Ravi Raghavan also gave us some very significant insights. He told us that people were into digital in some form or the other, but the way they look at it will be more sensible now. So they will innovate ways to adopt, and we'll find newer applications of digitalization. Then Mr. Shailesh Seth also told us that what's your cash flow, that in the next 1-2 years, it's more important to stay viable. So we need to look at what's your cash flow, not your profit. And he also threw some light on flexibility. He told us that do not treat your past success as a certificate for your future success, which is again another very valid point, I believe. And even to manage an enterprise, you need to know where you are. You have to do some of out of the box thinking, and you have to see how you want to manage your enterprise. And Mr. Ramesh again aptly added that whatever is produced has to be consumed. So you need to understand where your competitive advantages and take full advantage of that, or make full use of that competitive advantage. And then Mr. Shekhar Jitkar, he concluded that it's about changing ourselves, and we don't have to depend too much on outside suppliers. So again, that was another very valid point. So that was our whole webinar today, ladies and gentlemen. So, but before we close, I'm very happy to make another announcement. We will be holding our second International Automotive Manufacturing Summit on the 23rd of June. This will be a virtual International Automotive Manufacturing Summit, and it's happening on the 23rd of June 2020, next month. And we'll be mailing you the link to the virtual summit so that you can register for it and attend it. A PDF of the handout of the virtual summit has been uploaded in the handout section. If you look on your right in the control box, there's a handout section. A PDF of the virtual summit has been downloaded in it. You'll find it there. You can download the PDF from there. You will find all the details and all the contact details of the virtual summit in the handout, and you can get in touch with us for any sponsorships, for registration. You can get in touch with us. The PDF is right there in the handout. Also, in the same handout, the Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence brochure is also uploaded. You can have a look at it and download their products. So both the handouts are in the handout tab in the control box. Please do take a look at them. So ladies and gentlemen, it was wonderful having all of you. Our webinar is coming to a close, and it was a delight having the audience, our revered panelists, our speakers, our presenters, all of you. And I would especially like to thank our sponsors and Mr. Kaustubh Nande from Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence India for his support to this webinar. Once again, thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.